Good morning, friends. I am your research teacher, Mr. Swain. Welcome you back to the GYANJYOTI online classes. Students, today we will study a new chapter from the section History, and that is chapter number 9, Life in Villages and Towns. Students, this chapter comprises of the lifestyle of the standard of living of the people residing in villages and towns in the ancient era. Students, we have studied about early humans, early farmers, but now we will study about the lifestyle of the people of the staying in villages and towns. The Harappan civilization, students, you know, is the oldest civilization of our country. It remains showed the existence of a well-planned city. Students, we have found the remains in different parts of the country, in Pakistan also, because it was spread over a very long area. However, after this, for a very long time, there wasn't any urban civilization. The towns and cities started developing around 600 BC, that is, students, before Christ. The north and south of India dominantly consisted of villages of that period. Students, nowadays also in remote areas of our country, the villages are very underdeveloped. You can't see a percent of development there. So that was also in the time of the ancient era, at the time of Harappan civilization. So there is the presence of villages in the north and south of the country. We can find the remains. Students, the first subtopic of the topic the chapter is life in villages. The villages were mainly dependent on agriculture. Yes, true. Nowadays also, the villages are mainly dependent on agriculture and cultivation. The big landowners were called the Grama. Students, the word Grama. In the north and the Vella in the south. Students, this was Vella. Name of the villages, Grama in the north and Vella in the south. Their positions were hereditary. It means the man from the same family had the position of Grama or Vella for generations. This was the pattern continuing in the hereditary of the kingship. The small landowners made the second class of villagers. They were independent farmers known as the Grahapatis. Students, Grahapatis means the small landowners. The third class of the villagers worked for the landowners as slaves and laborers, and were called Dasa Karmakara. Okay, students, in the north and Kadaisia and Odimai in the south. Students, the third class of villagers who were the landowners were called Dasa Karmakara in the north and Kadaisia and Odimai in the south. This law and order in a village was maintained by the large landowner, the Grama. He was also acted as a representative of the king to collect taxes. Students, as I have told you that whether you are running a state or a country, you need revenue, you need taxes. Therefore, students, besides farmers, there were weavers, potters and craftsmen in every village. Nowadays also, students, we can find different types of potters, craftsmen in every nook and corner of the villages or part of the country. Students, next we will study the changes in villages, how changes took place. Students, around 600 BC, life in villages in India began to change due to various reasons. So what were the reasons? The people started moving to far off places in search of new income, which led to the formation of towns and cities. Students, how towns and cities began? Because they were small villages or big villages, but due to the migration of people in search of good food, good standard of living, a good income, they moved to different places, and that became the big towns and cities. This was the beginning of the second urbanization. Students, what do you mean by urbanization? Urbanization is a process by which people migrate to the variety of students. What is urbanization? Urbanization is a process. Students, urbanization is a process by which people migrate from villages to towns. Migrate from villages to towns and cities. Students, this is the process of urbanization. Then students, which led to grow the villages and into big towns and then cities. Students, what was the changes? The first changes was the making of iron tools like axes and plows helped the farmers in clearing the forests easily and using more land for agriculture. Students, first of all, the normal land was covered with forest, and gradually it broke off. They just cleared the forest and used the land for agriculture. Second one, students, the rulers built water resources like wells, ponds, tanks, canals that help the farmers in irrigation purpose. The third one, students, the increase in the production of crops led to surplus stock. The villagers began to trade the surplus stock in distant places. Similarly, the villagers developed the craft skills and produced the craft items in bulk. Craftsmen began their importance. Their importance began to grow in cities and towns. Next, students, E. The next option, fifth one is people started moving from villages to towns and cities to find new markets for their products and for their better opportunities. For example, a blacksmith found a town, better place to make and sell his iron tools and weapons. As how the potters find a better market, better scope for the selling of goods, the products. Then, in the same way, blacksmith found a new town a better place to make and sell his iron tools and weapons. So this was some changes, students, in the villages. Next, students, next subtopic is crafts people and a town. Students, our next topic is the craftspeople in a town collectively made the association or the guilds called the Swain. Students, they made a group. Swainish. Each of the Swainis had a head called the Pramukha. The head is known as Pramukha, or the head, group chief. The guilds arranged training for the craftspeople and supervised the quality of the products. They fixed the prices of the goods and at times provided monetary help to the craftspeople. The rich people invested in Swainis for better returns. The rich people they invested in Swainis to get the better returns. That was a group of people. The next students, next of the is expansion of trade. Expansion of trade. Students, what happened in here? Let us look at the surplus agricultural produce and the crafts item like the pottery and textiles, especially silk, jewelry, etc., etc. They increased the trade. People from the villages started moving to different towns and cities. Then students, there are evidences in the Jataka tales that the traders traveled to distant places such as Magadha, Koshada, Mathura, Takshashila and etc., etc. The traders also traveled in the eastern and western coast of India to sell their products and to neighboring countries. Students, just to sell the products to different parts of the country and to overseas, they moved from one place to another. Neighboring countries they also moved. Then students, there is a city called Mathura. This subtopic here is your students Mathura. You know students, Mathura is famous for Lord Krishna. Mathura, a city of small functions. Mathura was an important city for more than 25 centuries. Since it was located at the crossroads of major routes of the travelers, the traders halted here for rest and food. The city was surrounded by huge walls. The Jaina shrines, Buddhist monasteries, and Lord Krishna's temples made it a holy city too. Around 2000 years ago, Mathura became the second capital of the Kusanas. The inscriptions on the sides, on the slabs, stones and statues describe the presence of goldsmiths at that time. Blacksmiths, garland makers, perfumes and weavers and potters. Hence it shows that Mathura was a city of many functions and it was a city in the junction of many places, students, because travelers remained there for halting purposes. Students, next is a very important topic in the chapter Life in Villages and Towns, that is the second, urbanization. We will study. I have told you the meaning of urbanization, the migration of people from villages to towns and cities and to make a better place to live in. That is called the second, urbanization. We will study about it in detail. Students, the second, the topic is the second, urbanization. As I have told you students, that the urbanization meaning it is a process by which students, it is a process by which people from villages, remote areas of a place migrate to towns and cities for better standard of living, expectation of better living. They expect that they will earn more income, the standard of living will increase. So that is called the urbanization. So students, what we will study in second urbanization, students? The increase in agricultural production and crafts resulted in growth of trade in the villages and the villagers movement so far off places. So students, when the agricultural production grew, the villagers, they moved from villages to towns and cities. It resulted in the growth of towns and cities, as I have told you. The Vedic, early Buddhist and Jaina literature dating as back as 500 CE, that is Common Era, mentions about various monarchies and republics called Mahajanapadas. Students who have read about them, Mahajanapadas. Janapadas, small places, and this is Mahajanapadas. Maha means higher or bigger. Students, then most of the cities developed along the central Ganges plains and Malwa plateau and then spread it further to central and southern India. Some of the early urban developments were some cities early were Vaishali. These were our students from the oldest cities of the country. Kosambi, then Patliputra, Rajgriha, then Nalanda, Takshashila. Students, these were some of the oldest cities of India. Then students, we will study about what are the reasons for urban development or urbanization. What made next subtopic is students reasons for urban development. What was the reason? Students, at last we will read the sources of evidence of second revolution, but before that, what were the reasons? The first reason is, students, the first reason is the most important reason for the emergence of new towns and cities was for trade. The first reason is, students, trade. Nowadays also, students, if you can find many trade centers, then it will develop faster than other cities. The industrialized cities and towns that develop faster than other types of cities. Then some of them were the markets for various agricultural produce and crafts. Some of the townships were located on the trade routes. For example, the cities of Mathura, Ujjain and Takshashila. Students, here I have told you that these are some of the cities situated on trade routes, Mathura and Ujjain. These are some of the examples. Students, Ujjain is situated in present day Madhya Pradesh and Mathura in Uttar Pradesh. Okay, students, and Takshashila also, students, I have made write here that one of the oldest 5 cities. Among them, Takshashila was one of them. Then, students, the next reason is some urban centers were known for a particular kind of crafts. Yes, it's true. Some places in India are still famous for a particular single craft. So, what are they? The crafts. People settled in a town and became famous for that craft. For example, the textile trade flourished in Banaras. So, we can say specific craft. One more reason. Specific crafts. What are the specific crafts? Banaras, Varanasi, Mathura, Ujjain. Once again, student, Ujjain. Then, students, Madurai are some of the examples. Specific crafts. Students, Varanasi is the oldest living or surviving city of our country. It is the oldest city which is still livable. Then, students, the next is the cities near the coastal areas such as the port, Bharuch in Gujarat and Tamralipti in West Bengal were known for carrying out trade in other countries. Students, coastal cities. Next. Example, Bharuch and Tamralipti. Number D. The cities whose famous temples grew into urban areas. Temple cities, I can say. Pilgrims in large number would visit these towns on special occasions. Some such towns of religious importance were, once again, students, temple cities. Varanasi, once again, Varanasi is still famous for its temples. Then Ayodhya, Bodh Gaya. Students, Ayodhya is famous for Ram temple now. The Bhumi Pujan is going to be done on August 5th, you know. So these are some of the temple cities. Vaisali, Mathura once again. Then students, E, number 5th region. What was the 5th region? Cities like Nalanda and Tachishila were the famous urban learning centers. 5th region were the learning centers. Learning centers. 6th region. So what are the 6th region? Cities like Ujjain, Patliputra, Sravasti became the capitals of the kingdom. The villagers travelled to these places for trade of produce and craft. The rulers built forts around the cities to make their territories and also for their security. Students, next one, capitals. Next region is capitals of kingdoms. This one is the 6th region. So these 6 regions are students regions of urban development in the earlier time. Then students, as in villages, the crafts people organize themselves into different guilds, means groups, srenis, called the srenis. The srenis help the craft people by providing training, arranging purchase of raw materials and sale of their products. The heads of the sreni even supervise the pramukhs, the products, the production to maintain the quality of the products. So students, this was all about the regions of urban development. Then students, as we have studied about the second urbanization, so and we knew the reasons. So what were the evidences from where we knew about that actually it happened? Students, as you know, we have studied about in the sources of history section that there are 2 types of sources. First one is archaeological, second one is literary sources. Then there are many archaeological evidences that support and tells us about the second urbanization. So what are they? Let us tell them in detail. The first one is, students, sculptures. The first one is sculptures. Students, depiction of people living in villages and towns. This, students, listen carefully. The depiction of people living in villages and towns were carved on stones to decorate pillars. Okay, students. So it was engraved there. And gateways and railings. For example, sculptures of Sanchi Stupa in Madhya Pradesh depict scenes of a city. There are inscriptions on the stones and slabs found in Mathura and that support the evidence of second urbanization. From that you can know that what type of people were living, what was their lifestyle. So that depictions in the Sanchi Stupa situated in Madhya Pradesh is one of the best example in sculpture section. Then student, the next is ring wells. Ring wells. These have been unearthed from the sites of many cities of ancient India, such as at Purana Kila in Delhi. Ring wells show because of the lining with ceramic rings placed one top of the other. Nowadays, students, in the village area you can see ring wells. A concrete size ring is being made one by one. It is kept at the top and concreted till the below. Then students, it was basically a type of well constructed in the village houses. They were possibly used for drainage purpose. Students, it was used for the drainage purpose. Drains, you can say. Then next is fortification. Fortification. Students, what do you mean by fortification? Many earlier cities, particularly the capitals of Mahajanapadas, were surrounded by massive walls for security and to defend the territories. This gives us an idea about the size of the cities, how size it may be. By looking at the fortification, you can know how larger it could be. Then student, next is coins. Coins are one of the biggest sources. What are coins? Thousands of metal coins with special marks have been found by the archaeologists, which shows that the trade was not only on the barter system. Barter system, students, you know that exchange of goods was done, not currency was there. If I will take 2 kilos of rice, then you will give me 3 kilos of wheat. So that is called the barter system. But the coins was involved there. The wealth was also measured in the form of coins. Students, wealth was also measured in the form of coins. There was no currency notes discovered that time. Then northern black pottery ware. This is in short known as NBPW. Students, remains of the black baked and polished pottery also tells us about the early cities. Then students, the sixth one is literature. Next source is, students, literature. Literary sources. That this was all archaeological sources, and if we look at the literary sources, then we can know the Jataka tales, Sangam literature, navigation of the Red Sea written by an unknown Greek sailor, and Chanakya's Arthashastra. Students, that tells us about the describe the early cities and towns living in those, and about people living in those towns. Students, Sangam literature describes the Chola capital Kaveri Patta, that is called Puhar, as an early town. The town gets its name built on the northern banks of the river Kaveri. It had 2 ports, Mavarupakkam and Pattinapakkam. So these are some Telugu names, students. You may be feeling very odd, but it was Marupakkam and Pattinapakkam. In between the 2 ports was a green area of gardens and orchards for the people to rest and sell their products. The trade in Kaviripatnam flourished because the fair dealing of the merchants, and they prospered. The tall mansions with apartments, railways, corridors and doors tells us about the story of the prosperity in Puha. Students, this literature, Sangam literature, tells us about the Chola capital. So this was one of the Jataka tales, Sangam literature, the navigation of the navigation writers. They have written about the early lifestyle of the people. Then, students, the next is Arthashastra. Students, Arthashastra. In literary sources, I will write some examples. Sangam literature, Jataka tales, these are some of the examples. Okay, friends. These are some of the examples of literary sources. Then, students, Arthashastra describes some rules of spinning and weaving in the workshop of early cities. It tells us about the governance of the government of the kingdom. The work was done by the supervision of special officials. Women, old people, women retired from temple services or from the services of the king, and the differently abled people were involved in the work. This was written in the book Arthashastra. They were paid according to the quality and quantity of the work done by them. So this is all about governance, students. As I have told you, as a whole, I can say that governance was mainly inscribed there. Then, students, Arikamedu is an archaeological site. There is a place called Arikamedu. This is also one of the evidences. Arikamedu. There are 7 sources. Arikamedu is an archaeological site in southern India, just 4 kilometers from Puducherry. Students, Puducherry or Pondicherry, it is one of the union territories situated near Chennai, or it is in Tamil Nadu, present in Tamil Nadu. During archaeological excavations, the site was identified as a part of Padukko. The presence of Roman lamps, students, the glass and stone beads and gems at the site helped conclude that Arikamedu was a Greek trading port and traded with the Rome. in the 2nd century BC to the 8th century BC. Students, if you will visit Pondicherry, this is Arikumedu, but I am talking about Pondicherry. If you go there, in Goa also you can go there, the presence of Portuguese and France and Dutch people, you can see their buildings, their architecture, you can know. The monuments, you will see that there were a lot of foreigners. They came there, they traded with the people, they stayed there, they made some matrimonial alliances, and therefore you can find their presence. Now students, this was the evidences or sources about the second urbanization. Okay students, then we'll move to the option, next subtopic is the last one, elsewhere. Elsewhere means students, we'll study about the different topics or different areas where urbanization took place. The urbanization was not only happening in India, yes, it's true, it was not just happening in India. When it was developing around Ganges Springs, at around the same time the city of Rome too was developing from a village. In 509, it grew off the central as the center of Roman Republic. Rome was a well-planned city and a very well-planned and was a very big city with a population of around 10 lakhs. At that time, students, just imagine. It had a forum in the center to accommodate the gathering of people on special occasions. Many remarkable buildings such as came up in Rome. The Pantheon, students, just remember Pantheon. The buildings were Pantheon, then Colosseum. Was an amphitheater in the center of Rome city. Students, you know amphitheater is a very big building surrounded by very high walls. Rome was the capital of the Roman Emperor by 27 C, that is 27 common era, that is AD. It is known as one of the most powerful empires of the world in that period. It was the most powerful empire. The remains of pottery found in the Mediterranean region to describe the urban development. Students, this was the topic all about, students. Now we have completed the chapter. When we'll meet next, we'll read a new chapter. So I hope students you have understood the chapter Life in Villages in Towns. Students, please refer to the video while watching this video. Please refer to the textbook. Then students, please study well, stay home, stay safe, and have a nice day. Thank you very much.